Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Jake. You can also call me Atrocious, and today we've got the top 8 round of the Tokyo Area 1 Daiichi Wave 2 Championships here in OP10. It was an exciting top 16 round that we had in the last video. If you haven't seen that, go check that out. Uses Captain Kid versus Ploofy. And now we move on to the top 8 of this tournament. So looking at the top 8 Metashare, you got 3 Doflamingos, not super surprising. 4 of them made it. It is arguably the best deck. You also have 2 purple Luffys, so both of the purple Luffys that were in the top 16 advanced into the next round. Also 2 Teaches as well, and then 1 Enel. So the Enel is the kind of sleeper pick, I feel like, within this tournament. Looks to maybe have an interesting opportunity ahead of itself. You already know the matchup that's ahead. It's got to get through Marshall D. Teach first. And so before we go into the tournament, just want to say a couple quick things. First of all, I am not the official live stream. You can check out the official live stream in the description below. I'm watching the tournament to get my own unique English commentary as well. We're gonna have OP10 tournaments daily for the next several days, right? Finishing up this tournament, and also the Tokyo Area 2 Wave 2 Championships are happening immediately after this. It's like literally the next day at the time of this recording. So as soon as I finish up this tournament, I'm going to be putting out videos for the next tournament as well. So if you want to subscribe and make sure that you don't miss any of our commentary videos, do that and hit the bell to be able to get notified whenever we have a video. I also want to quickly mention that this tournament, our broadcast of unique English commentary, is sponsored by Enel. You've probably heard of Enel before and seen their designs, right? Their Gear 5 Luffy playmat being one of their most popular, and especially if you're preparing for OP9, they've got this stained glass 4 Emperors playmat here for you now. Whether you're a fan of One Piece, obviously, right, or other series like Dandadan, Chainsaw Man, a personal favorite, or even Jujutsu Kaisen, you can get an extremely high quality playmat with stitch edges, rubber backing to trick out your different decks and times that you go to locals. If you're interested in a playmat from their site for yourself, do not worry, you can save 15% off at checkout using NEN15 as a code, and then if you want, you can save even more money by using my promo code Atrocious for 20% off your first order. Enel's got really cool, unique products. Love their styles and mats, and definitely should go check it out if you can. All right, so back to the matchup. Marshall D. Teach, right? One of the premier decks that came out of OP09, got much stronger in OP10 with the addition of a couple Blackbeard Pirates type cards. We'll talk about them during this match more than likely, but Blackbeard, if you do not know, as a leader, you cannot use on-play effects within your deck. You can play cards that have on-play abilities, but you just can't activate on-play abilities. And then on top of that, you have that activate main of trashing 1 card and negating your opponent until your next turn to not have on-play effects. And Enel is one of those decks that has plenty of on-play effects available to them, right? That survivability that Enel has made it an annoying matchup for so many people since its release in OP05. Enel, as a leader, if you do not know, has an opponent's turn once per turn. When your life hits 0, you may place the top card of your deck to your life, then discard 1 card from your hand. One of the reasons why this monocolor leader, right, is a 4-life leader. That leader effect being very strong within the game, but could be a problem with 10-drop Blackbeard, right? Being able to negate a leader's effect could spell trouble for the Enel because it would negate that opponent's turn once per turn, regaining a life situation. But looking at the Blackbeard player's hand, they've got a couple different cards in here, including Laboon, This Is My Time, a Jesus Burgess, and also a Shuryu. This 6-drop is a new card that has come in OP10, being called Liberation, right? If you get confused with the 4-drop Liberation that came out in OP09, I think the English translation officially is called Black Hole. So now, just to let you all know, at this point, when I say Liberation, I'm going to refer to the 6-drop card, and then Black Hole will be the 4-drop card. So not looking to be a terrible hand, right? You've got some characters that you can play down and some searching options, build up the trash a little bit with This Is My Time. You're able to KO different characters that come out on the field for the Enel, right, with that Liberation effect, and you got a 2K to be able to, you know, counter out of some things. The Enel, it's a very interesting build. I do have deck lists for both players. We'll show those at the end of the match. Has 2 different Shirahoshis. One, that blocker EB01 Shirahoshi that I told you couple weeks ago to go buy because decks are playing them, and here we go, second match in a row that we're seeing a top 16 feature have this card. And then also a nice 5-drop Shirahoshi, right? That 5-drop being so good to draw cards within the deck. Also playing a playset of the X Drake 2Ks from that Supernova build, going to be nice in there. And then also a Rygo or Kingdom Come and a You're the One That Should Disappear. So looks like it's going to be an interesting hand, especially for the Enel. You don't really have a lot of things that you can play, right? You're really going to have to depend on the Shirahoshi draw and the life available to you in this match, and we're going to see it go in. So the Blackbeard going first, making the Enel go second, is going to use This Is My Time and has a couple different options, right? Looking at the top 3, grabbing a Blackbeard Pirates type card, has Van Augur, Stronger, and Doc Q at its disposal. So Doc Q, a very good card as we've seen in these championships, combos really well with something like Laboon, right? And that's exactly what he's going to take, that Doc Q. The Laboon Doc Q combo can KO plenty of different characters on the field that Enel puts down in this match. And so now we're going to have the Enel just used to play down Shirahoshi. Very good within this matchup, right? If that Shirahoshi is KO'd by an effect, you gain a life. So really forces your opponent to just swing at it, right, and force you to block and KO with it, or just go ahead and give you a life. So at 3 Dawn now, looks like it might be an attach 1, swing 6 with the Marshall D Teach, and then go ahead and use Doc Q. That might be a nice play that they have available to them in this turn. And is thinking about actually going 7 at lead and swinging. That is going to take a life, just a X Drake right there, not going to use its trigger and pass off the turn, not opting for the Doc Q on the play. Very interesting, especially on a 4 Dawn turn. It's not like honestly too much that he can do, and he doesn't even do anything. He just passes off the turn. Doesn't even swing at the Marshall D Teach, right? So very interesting for this Enel to not give cards, really just trying to swing at anything that may come on the field and cause a problem, really limit Marshall D Teach's hand size, right? Marshall D Teach really depends on the draws and also the life to really have enough cards in hand to be able to constantly use the leader effect. So is going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. Is going to swing 6, take another life, maybe a trigger that plays, and it looks like it's going to be a Frankie and drawing a card. Now that Frankie doesn't get to be played because you're not at 1 or less life, but is going to be able to draw a card, does draw another Frankie right there. And with that 4, is going to go ahead and play a Jesus Burgess, right? That Burgess going to be really nice as cards hit the trash to be able to gain power and battle some of these bigger bodies that the Enel might play. And so is going to go ahead and use that X Drake. So the X Drake is going to be able to rest that Burgess, a very interesting choice for this deck, right? Playing down that 2K, and you see your opponent reading that card. It does have an activate main of resting the character in order to do that, but your life has to be less than or equal to your opponent's life card. So is probably just attaching the rest of the Dawn, swinging at the Burgess, and so now swinging 8 at 5. And here's the interesting part, right? There are 3 cards in the trash for the Burgess. As soon as you use 1 counter to get 4 cards in the trash, that is going to be an extra 1,000 that goes onto the Burgess in order to counter out of the swing. So trashing the Laboon gives you plus 1K for the counter on the Laboon, right, to go to 6. 7 would be to go with the 4 cards in the trash, right? An additional 1,000. And then the Sure You 2K would get you to 9 in order to get out of this 8,000 power swing. Very interesting set of sequences that this Jesus Burgess has that you really need to know, especially heading into the West, right? If you're preparing to play OP09 Blackbeard in this. I think, honestly, trashing those two are going to be a great combo for within this deck. You have another Von Augur to play in order to combo with the Doc Q, so a little boon. Not necessarily super needed, I think, at this point. You could also put away the Von Augur, but instead allows the Burgess to get KO'd. And one of the reasons, if you saw them put that 5-drop Kuzan on screen on the Japan broadcast, the reason that you would maybe allow this Burgess to get KO'd is if you get that 5-cost Kuzan, you can revive the Burgess and bring him back from the trash. So it's an excellent strategy, and opting to just save resources within the hand instead of countering out and using it to make the hand a bit smaller. So definitely a heads up play, I think, by that Teachin. Is going to go ahead, swing 5. I'm not sure if it's at the X-Drake or the Enel, but either way, that Shirahoshi is going to go ahead and block. And so looks like he's going to be resting, I believe, 5 for the Von Augur. So the Von Augur is going to be nice, going to be minusing 3 for the effect, right? And then use that Doc Q to rest that as well and KO a, I believe, 1 cost or less. And so takes out that X-Drake, does pitch that 6-drop Liberation to negate on play effects, right? Because now if you're the Enel going into an 8 Dawn turn, you have lots of on-play effects at your disposal, right? Not only do we have that Shirahoshi that's still in hand, right, that could be played, but that Katakuri, as you see, that 8-drop Katakuri is going to be nice to be able to put different cards back into life, right? Cards that you don't want on the field, or maybe good triggers that you can have. And so is going to swing at that Doc Q, KO it, and that Doc Q with an on-KO effect of drawing 1. Is going to go ahead and play the Katakuri, not necessarily for the on-play effect, right? Because you don't have any because of that Marshall D. Teach leader effect, but is at least going to put an 8,000 power body on the board, because especially once you get to the later turns, right, the 10 Dawn turns, and Marshall D. Teach starts playing the 10 drop, right, Marshall D. Teach, it's going to be tough to be able to battle, so you're going to need to prepare for that with bodies on the board. The Blackbeard now is going to use This Is My Time and finds a couple different cards in this deck, right? You have that 4-drop Black Hole and the Von Augur that are very nice to be able to grab. The Liberation might help you, in a sense, KO a character, but the Von Augur might be nice for getting consistent kind of minusing effects. Is going to opt for the Black Hole, maybe changing his mind on there. The Black Hole. The Black Hole doesn't necessarily minus anything on your opponent's field, but if you use it, you can nullify an effect on an opponent's character, and then if that character is a 4-cost or less, you can KO it. So is going to go ahead and use Stronger. Stronger is going to come on the field, and you can use that activate main to trash 1 card from your hand, which is going to be that 6-cost Liberation, and then also trashing the Stronger, which allows you to draw 1 card and -2 on that Katakuri for the turn. So could go ahead and maybe KO this Katakuri with the Black Hole, right? With that -2, it is a 6-cost. The Von Augur resting is going to minus an additional 3 to be able to get that down to a 3-cost overall, and the Black Hole is going to be able to KO it in this turn. Also on that draw, drew a Kuzan, a great 5-drop. If you saw our OP10 opening talking about that card, that is an excellent card for this deck, especially with the Burgess. So is going to go ahead and minus that Katakuri, does leave 5 open. And so is thinking about attaching to still 7 Dawn left, not officially attached, but is going to go ahead, attach the 2, and swing 7 with the Blackbeard at life. They are going to take it. Is going to be a potential trigger, and that trigger right there going to be a really interesting card. I believe that is one of the new OP10 events in this, electromagnetic cannon, right? Electromagnetic cannon. If you use it, has a trigger, draw 2 cards, then discard 1 from your hand, and is going to go ahead and do that. So another interesting inclusion from OP10 in this Enel deck has made it so dangerous, and draws into a, I believe, Yamato and 10-drop Ace, opting to pitch the 9-drop Yamato. You already have one in hand, don't need another one, and with that, Black Hole is going to be able to KO that Katakuri right there, and probably will maybe use the Kuzan in a future turn. Uses leader effect to pitch the Shoryuken, and you can see how the Enel, not really swinging at life, right, has really dwindled down this Blackbeard's hand, has really put it down to only 3 cards in all. And so that 6k swing going at the Von Augur is going to take a KO and draw a card, and the Yamato right here, just again like that Katakuri, is just going to play down a big 9,000 power body, no on play effect. And so we're going to see how this Blackbeard really progresses within this game. With the Kuzan, right? Kuzan is a cool new card that allows you to revive a cost 5 or less Blackbeard pirate character, except for Kuzan, from your trash onto the field. Could bring back Von Augur, right? Could bring back the Burgess, like I mentioned. The problem is, in this situation, you can't play Kuzan and the Liberation card that you have in your hand at the same time, right? There's just not enough Dawn in this turn to be able to use a play like that, right? That would be an 11 Dawn play at this point. And so we're going to see how he really goes in this turn. Even though the board state is weird and the Blackbeard is still at 5 life, this Enel is looking to be in a pretty good spot, I feel like, because it feels like these bodies are going to stick on the board. And so could use the Laboon if they wanted to go Laboon and then Liberation, right? But is going to go ahead with that Kuzan, play that Kuzan down onto the field. And we're going to see if that Kuzan revives either Von Augur or the Jesus Burgess. Remember also, Kuzan cannot be removed from the field by your opponent's effects. So if there was a Katakuri or Yamato or something that would KO it, or Raigo, right, would not take care of that Kuzan, but is just going to go ahead, play that Kuzan effect. Remember that you do have to draw 1 card before you bring out a character onto the field, and is going to bring out that Burgess. So that Burgess getting an additional 3,000 power, right? I like this play. Gets the character on field, right? Becomes an 8,000 power character. Is going to be able soon to battle with this Yamato, and so just pitches the Liberation and passes the turn with 5 Dawn open. Doesn't want to allow that Enel with swinging leader at life to get like a free cycle, essentially, right? Because they do still have leader effect. That's one of the tricky things when playing against Enel that you really have to worry about in this. So is going to go ahead once again and use that X-Drake. The X-Drake going to rest that Burgess, and so maybe is just going to slam into this Burgess on the Yamato, right? You can't use Raigo to KO a Burgess because Burgess cannot be removed by effects, and is going to attach a ton of Dawn to the Yamato and go ahead and swing. It looks like it's going to be 5 Dawn, I believe, and is going to round out the turn just playing a Shirahoshi blocker. Going to be really nice, right? Even if they use this Blackbeard leader to swing at the Yamato and get rid of it, right? Because it is an immediate threat. This Shirahoshi is going to be able to block with it or maybe gain a life. So again, really good spot, especially for the Enel. That was a super good turn to be using that X-Drake and rest the Burgess. We've seen it twice already in this game, and it's been so strong for him in this matchup. So the Blackbeard putting the full lead, or I can't remember the official English translation for this off the top of my head. I'm so sorry for this stage, but full lead is what I'm going to call it. I think it's like Hachinos or something like that. Anyways, trash a card, rest that stage, and look for a Blackbeard Pirates type card. It has a couple different options within the This Is My Time. You've also got Doc Q, and I believe that's a Stronger in hand, or it's a Lafitte, I'm sorry. And the thing, they're thinking about grabbing either the Lafitte or This Is My Time, right? The Lafitte is nice because you have yet to see a 10-drop Blackbeard, right? You're playing a playset because it's arguably the best card in your deck, right? Is going to go ahead and use that Lafitte. You have to you have to play one Dawn for it and then also rest another to get its effect. Does finally find a 10 drop, but with the 10 drop, you can play it down on this turn, right? You don't have the Dawn. Also has the option for Kuzan, which is what I think they're maybe thinking about, potentially playing down the Kuzan, hoping maybe to draw into another one of their 10 drop Marshall D teaches, but is going to go the secure route, right? In my opinion, is going to grab that 10 drop teach in order to play within the next turn. So with this, what do you use now on this situation? You don't really have a ton of minusing effects, I think, at this point, and a swing is just gonna net you a block from the Shirahoshi. You could choose to use the Liberation and nullify the Shirahoshi blocker effect and then maybe swing at the Yamato, but that would only leave you with 3 Dawn to swing 8 at the Yamato, which would not be enough. So instead is going to go in, leave 5 up for the potential 5 drop that you've got, but is going to go ahead, block from that, and just pass off the turn after using that Shiryu in the leader effect back into the Enel. The Yamato is live. With that 10 drop ace, I believe in hand, is just going to swing 5, take out that Lafitte, and then the 10 drop ace is going to come in once again, just playing down the body, right? You don't get the on play effect, but here's the thing about Blackbeard. If you stall them out, right, and kind of swing big in the coming turns, you're going to be able to take a lot of life really fast within this game. And so that 10 drop ace is going to have 10,000 power. We're going to see if the Blackbeard decides to play down the 10 drop in this turn, but is first going to use that full lead stage, pitch the black hole, says, you know what, I can't use this anymore, finds another 10 drop off of that search. You've got consistent searching options now with that full lead, and so now it's going to be a string of 10 drops that you put on your opponent. And so here we go, gonna go ahead, use that right there to tell the ace that they can't swing, and now with this 5k swing at the leader, negating the leader effect, going to swing 5, try to get them to take a life, but the Enel is going to use a counter card, right? Because if they take this life, they can't regain that life back. So safe bet, right? Your opponent only swinging 5 is going to go ahead and pass off the turn to the Enel. So the Enel is going to go ahead, play the Raigo. So Raigo is going to take out that 10 drop, and you still have another Raigo in hand for the other 10 drop that they revealed. This Blackbeard not being able to stick out any cards on the field within this match. A great job by the Enel for really controlling this board, and with the rest of the Dawn is going to go ahead, swing 5 with this X-Drake, says, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start putting a lot of pressure on you. I know one of the 2 cards in your hand, that one card being a 10 drop Blackbeard. What is this other card? Are you going to reveal it to me at this point right now? This Enel doing a fantastic job within this game. The Blackbeard going to be taking a life, no trigger on that one. It's going to be another 10 drop, so still no counter in the hand. So this 7k swing, you're going to have to take, and unless it's something crazy, which it's not, this 9k swing right here is going to be another life. So you see this Blackbeard go down from 5 to 2 once the information is pretty much known of what is in the hand, and we move on into the next turn. Another 10 drop could come down on the field in this turn, only for another Raigo to meet its end. This is why I said in previous Market Watch videos that you need to buy Raigos, right? Black Hill Luffy's are playing it. Now Enel's coming back into the scene. I assume that maybe after seeing this matchup, Enel is going to zoom a little bit in popularity with both the West and the East. But we're going to start out with the full lead search. So now here, a couple different options. Got a 2k in the Shiryu, potential 2-drop Vasco shot, and I think that was a 6-drop Liberation. No, it was a 4-drop Black Hole. My apologies. Is going to go ahead, grab the 2k in the Shiryu, put that in hand, and we're going to see on this 10 drop, right, if they swing at the X-Drake or the leader, is going to use that same method of nullifying the leader effect and also saying that the ace can't attack, and that 5k swing is just going to be a 1k Shirahoshi proc, and then the leader effect, pitching the Laboon, no on play effects. You don't want to give any opportunity for this Enel to be gaining life, right? Really force them to have the good stuff. And so with 6, Dawn is going to go ahead, play another Rygo, I would assume, to get rid of this Blackbeard. Rygo being so good, especially when you're hovering at 1 life, to just KO everything. And is thinking about attaching a bunch of Dawn, but is maybe going to start out with the Yamato. I would say you're safe to start out just swinging 9 with the Yamato, really testing the hand. Is going to put the Martial D Teach down to 1 life right now. Is going to attach lead, swing 9, and I do like this play, keeping the X-Drake up. You want to keep this X-Drake up to maybe spread out the board within the next turn, right? You want to keep this guy alive because he's the most likely to die in the next turn, right? If you're Martial D Teach opponent swings leader at the X-Drake. So you want to try to have as many bodies on the board heading into the next turn. The Rygos have been excellent plays. And so now we see with this 9K swing, what does the Blackbeard do, right? Do they pitch a whole bunch of different cards? Is going to take a life, put it in the hand. It's another counter card in the Lafitte, but I don't know if it can save you within this game. The Enel has taken total control of this match. You have another 10 drop in hand. That is one that you really wanted to see as a counter card, I feel like, in this, but does have the ability once again to play a 10 drop Blackbeard. You really just need 1 or 2 of these guys to stick in this game, but the Enel has just had a response every single time. So what does this player do? Looks like, yes, once again, is just going to play the 3rd straight Blackbeard. This one is surely going to stick, right? Is going to go ahead, swing 5 with the leader, is just going to be a 2K counter right there, is going to go ahead, use the full lead stage, and is going to pitch the other 10 drop Blackbeard, right? Is going to go ahead and try to find some counter, does find a couple 1Ks and a full lead, but the full lead without counter is not going to help you, but is going to grab it anyways on this turn. Maybe going to use it for the leader effect, right? You saw it just go immediately to the trash, just say, you know what? I'm going to use this for the on-play effects. It's a card that I don't need in my deck in case I continue to cycle and whatnot. And you can see on that Blackbeard just, oh man, just tough game right now. That ace cannot swing, which is really nice. And you have a 12,000 power blocker, but with a couple cards, could he go for game right now at this point? If he goes ahead and uses that electromagnetic cannon, that's just for KOing different characters. There's no power boosting on this one, so probably not going to be played. Is going to go ahead, use that Enel to swing 5 and now swing all in with the Yamato. I really like this play, right? There is not a lot of cards in the hand. If there's potentially some non-counter things like that, they're going to have to force block with the Blackbeard, and is just going to go ahead and concede off of that one. Says, you know what? I see the writing on the wall in the future turns, especially since I pitched that other Blackbeard. You've got this one, and the Enel moves on into top 4. Such an interesting match that we saw in this one with how the Enel is now built, right, with the Supernova package of X-Drake, right, being arguably now a premier yellow card coming from OP10, and also the electromagnetic cannon. I do have the deck list, so there's a couple other super interesting cards within this deck that we did not get to see. But before we do that, let's go over the Martial D Teach list. So this isn't the exact Martial D Teach list that we saw, but this is another top 16 Martial D Teach that was in this tournament that I want to talk about in here, because I think the lists are relatively built the same, right? With the new Kuzan that's come out, the new 6-cost Liberation. There may be a couple ratio things about this deck that you have, but I think for the most part, sticks to be the same. This is also from user YGPKSV over on Twitter. I think I need to give them a follow. And so you see within this deck, if you want to maybe get pretty much the exact deck list that we saw in there, my recommendation is to switch these EB01 finger guns with Laboons, right? Laboon not present in this list, this player not opting to use it in the tournament, just more consistent and potential trigger cards, right? But for the most part, everything else within this deck stays the same with most Blackbeard lists that you see. We saw the power of 5-cost Kuzan within this match, just a great option to be able to grab anything that's not a 10-drop Blackbeard, right, as a character back onto the field, and allowing you also to draw a card puts this archetype, in my opinion, pretty much into the S tier. Like, definitely makes it a top 2 or 3 deck. I think it maybe has the potential to surpass Purple Luffy in terms in the meta. But aside from that, very similar to what we've seen in OP09, you know, you've got your Blackbeard package, obviously your 10 drops, as I mentioned, Von Augur, a great 5-drop in here. Your 4s consist of Burgess, which over time as the game progresses, right, and more cards get in your trash, gets more and more power, and also has some really tricky interactions that your opponent has to play around, right, that I mentioned, with pitching cards to get almost double the amount of counter power on the defense. Your 2K package in here is the Shuryus and Strongers, not usually any other 2Ks within this deck. And then a couple really interesting small characters on the field, your Lafitte's to do some searching, and your Doc Q's to combo well with Laboons, the Von Augurs to be able to KO different things on the field. And Full LED, as you saw within that game, especially towards the end, just a great stage to be able to cycle your hand a little bit, kind of find some of your key pieces, and especially when you're dropping 10 drops back to back to back to back turns, it allows you to still be able to cycle, find different cards without committing any dawn. Martial D Teach, a great deck, and it's gonna be a good deck in my opinion for a very long time, right? This style of the game and the reason why this leader is created to kind of put a twist on the game and really control power creep in stuff. So excellent job by the top 16 player that we watched, or top 8 actually player that we watched. But let's take a look at the winning deck list from this match. And so here's the winning deck list of this player. Just a really cool deck in my opinion. Very interesting how they built this deck, right? Enel, the usual package that we see a lot of times, right? You've got your 10-drop Ace, 9-drop Yamato, 8-drop Katakuri being a full playset in this deck, as well as other common cards such as Beige, right? Frankie, Raigo, You're the One That Should Disappear, Nami from OP08, and maximizing a lot of the other kind of cards that we see on and off in the 3-drop Shirahoshi, the 2-drop Shirahoshi being a 4 of in this deck, but has some really cool inclusions. We talked about in OP10, the X-Drake, excellent to be able to rest different characters and KO them in battle, especially for starve methods, and also the Electromagnetic Cannon, just an excellent card to be able to not only gain information right on that main if you use it, look up to one card from the top or of you or your opponent's life cards and rearrange it at the top or bottom, but also having that effect to KO a 5 cost or less is so good in a lot of different matchups, especially I think the Blackbeard matchup, right? You can gain information for yourself, but also maybe put their 10-drop Blackbeards to the bottom of their life so then they don't see it until later, or maybe other important cards there, and then also KO pretty much anything on the field that's not the 10-drop, right? Your Raigos are the reason that you get the 10-drop. We didn't see it within this game, but the 6-drop Lucy is present in this deck list. Now, I've seen one of my locals, Unlight, play this card in Enel, but I haven't really seen anybody else, and it's very exciting to see it in the main stage. But if you do not know, it's a 6-drop, 7,000 power with a when attacking once per turn effect. So honestly, kind of good in the Blackbeard matchup. The effect, if you do not know, is you may add one card from the top or bottom of your life to your hand. You can rest up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 4 or less. Then if you have 1 or less life cards, you can add a card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. So very good tech in this matchup and in this deck in general, right? You like hovering kind of at that 1 life mark, so it gives you an extra heal as well as being able to rest important 4 costs within this game to then combat and attack. You've also got a event card in OP09. If you aren't sure, maybe you haven't opened any product already, it's called Dareshi. That 3 cost event card has an main effect. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 cards with trigger other than Dareshi, add them to your hand, put the rest on your deck in any order. There's so many cards that have trigger in this deck, right? You can grab event cards. You can grab these different characters of Nami, Shirahoshi, Beige, Frankie. Really gives you some flexibility to find specific pieces, right? Especially on maybe some of the more awkward turns, right? Maybe some setup stuff that you got going on, because usually you don't really play anything on a 3-dawn turn or even 4. at that point. You really start playing like 5 and on, or maybe in the later turns, right? Maybe you don't have an 8-drop Katakuri and all you have is the Nami to play on the turn. The rest of your 3-Dawn could be used for finding some other pieces, whether that's counter or, you know, some important events like Raigo in future turns to get rid of kind of bigger bodies on the field. It's a very interesting deck list. I'm excited to potentially see it in top 4 and maybe even later, depending on how it runs, but it's got a lot to work with heading into the next couple rounds of this championship. And Enel is going to get its first test in the top 4 round. It's going to be a Enel versus Doflamingo match, so don't go anywhere if you want to make sure you see that matchup. It's going to be exciting against arguably the best deck in format. And make sure again to subscribe in order to see that and the next tournament heading out in the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. And yeah, that's all I got.